Hello, Hollywood Times viewers. Today, we are honored to have a special guest with us today. Grammy-nominated pianist, composer, Emmy Award-winning TV host, and host of the nationally syndicated Intelligence for Your Life radio show, John Tesh. Hi, John. Woo, that was a mouthful.
It was. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. You look amazing.
Well, it's like I have a friend who says, a good day above ground is a good day is a day above ground. Sorry.
Yes, that is true. So every morning when I wake up, it's like, thank the Lord that He's given me another day.
Yeah, and plus I'm closing in on a super big birthday. So
July 9th. Right?
July 9th. Yeah, I'll be 7 decades old, and so yeah, I have grandkids, and what's really interesting about that age is that you're just not as stressed out. We just played 2 shows in Las Vegas last weekend, a couple weekends ago, and it was like, how come you're not nervous? I said, well, what's the worst that can happen? If I screw this up, then it's only going to be a few more years. People are making fun of me, and I don't mean a few more years. I have my eye on 92. I have an aunt. My grandmother was 94, and my aunt is 97 right now. So I'm thinking I'm going to make it through.
You're not going to go for the big 100, John?
Talk to me in a couple of years. Stuff is starting to hurt,
Well, we'll talk to you in 10 years when you're 80, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Oh my gosh!
I just turned 62 this year, so it's like,
here we go, baby boomers.
Right? I'm going towards this, heading towards the 70. Well, we were wishing you an early 70th birthday.
Thank you.
Do you have big plans for the 70th?
My wife has already surprised me with 2 of my college roommates that were roommates 52 years ago at North Carolina State. So it's sort of every now and then a little surprise will pop up. So it's been a full-time job for my wife.
For Connie, your beautiful wife, Connie. Now you guys have been married 30 years, right? In April, is that correct?
It was 30. Yeah.
A big thrill. What'd you guys do for that one?
We went somewhere. I don't remember. I don't remember. It's like now that we're grandparents of 3 kids under the age of 10, everything works around the soccer games. So I think we were at a soccer game when we were celebrating. It's
amazing to have grandkids, right?
Yeah, I actually wasn't sure what my role was going to be, and because my wife she's so amazing at it, especially when they were like little babies. And I said, what is it? What's my role going to be? She said, just like my mom always said, just play piano. And so yeah. So it's like I can play anything. I can play anything, and they'll dance to it. It's like and they'll make up a dance to that. And then there's the putting them to sleep song, which is Nina Noni, Nina Noni, Papa loves his grandkids. Nina Noni. So anything.
Lucky grandkids.
Yeah, well, it gives me something to do, So now I at least have a role.
So now you're gonna do some children jingles for us for our grandkids, lullabies. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure. I'll figure out what that is.
Oh my gosh! Well, today we're here to talk about something that's happening that you're going to do in Studio City. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's we've done so many different shows in so many different venues, and chief among them was the Red Rocks Amphitheater, where we played, in 1993, and I was still in Entertainment Tonight, but it really started my my music career, and so I was able to leave television after that show became. We went from selling 500 records a month to 50,000 like in 1 week. I know it was really crazy, and so we continued with PBS, and we released 7 different shows. One of them was a big band show, which I love because it's lots of really hard jazz chords. But we've just lately we said, because we'll probably do like 10 or 12 concerts a year, and it's normally performing arts centers, like 3,000 or 4,000 people. Sometimes we'll play in churches. But I said to our booking agent and my friend Rick Farrell, who's at ICM. I said, I would really like to play some jazz clubs. And he goes, really? There's no money in that. And I said, no, it's not about, it's not the money. It's about playing, And so we played in a club of 300 in Las Vegas, and I just lost my mind. I mean, it was just so much fun because it's so intimate, and a lot of my show is, I mean, I'm old enough that there's stories. I mean, there's stories about quitting your job and following your dream to be a full-time musician. There's stories about how I started the radio show that's now on several hundred radio stations, and there's stories about how I beat a deadly diagnosis of cancer. So that's not what it's all about. But there's all kinds of music. I mean, we play and at Feinstein's, Feinstein's, we're going to play all kinds of big band music, but also my songs from all those PBS specials and a lot of sports themes that I've done with a full horn section. And so that's it. I've never played there. I've eaten there, but I've never played there before. So it'll be everything from when marimba rhythms start to play, dance with me, make me sway, and then the NBA basketball theme, which seems odd, but. So a little bit of everything, and and even at a small venue like that, it's a multimedia thing. So we have projection behind us, because a lot of the music that I've written has either been used for cartoon shows or for the Barcelona Olympic Games, and so we really take people on a journey of, and I think for me, it's like Conan O'Brien said. Well, I was on his show after Red Rocks became a double gold album, and he goes, he looks at the audience and he goes, if the guy who used to read the celebrity birthdays on television is now playing piano and millions of people are coming to see that, we all need to go to our closets and get our clarinets out, because anything can happen. And I think that's I'm sort of the poster boy for, guys look at me and they're like, well, if I practice a little bit, maybe I could be doing this. And it's true.
How old were you when you first started playing music, like on the piano or keyboards?
Yeah, I was 6 years old, and my mom on Long Island, I don't know why she made this decision, but it was like she thought I needed some discipline, and so she would take the minute minder, it's around here somewhere, the minute minder egg timer, and she would put it on my piano, and it would just tick away, and I'd be, I was like, for hours, and so I started back then. I hated it, and I also played trumpet, but once the Dave Clark Five came along and the Doors, all of a sudden I could play organ in a rock band, and that's what I did. Everybody was in a rock band on Long Island. We were in a band called The Best of Both Worlds. It was a Blood, Sweat, and Tears cover band, and we were in a rival band to Billy Joel. His first band was the Hassles, and I'm always joking that it really wasn't a rivalry. If Billy didn't want to do the gig, then we got it, So he was like Coca-Cola. We were like, not so much Pepsi, but maybe RC Cola or Hojo Cola, if you remember that from Howard Johnson's. But yeah, it was my mom who I couldn't go outside. I mean, a lot of musicians who are watching this will know this in their own lives, is that my mom wouldn't let me go outside and play until I practiced for 2 hours a day, and so even though I quote unquote hated my mom at the time, what it does is it sets you on a path, especially if you have good lessons with good technique and good practice routines and discipline.
And so how old were you when you wrote your first song?
I was about 8, and it was called Hippity Hop to the Barbershop. I don't know why. I think it was my first rap tune, and I went to see, it's interesting, I went to see In the Heights, In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda's,
Yes.
Tony Winning, and we sort of became friends after that. I went backstage, and I sort of forced my way back there, and so my daughter, who was, in her teens at the time, she's now 28. She was in her teens, at the time. She was like so taken by the hip hop musical, and so I said, I think I could probably write hip hop. She said, don't do it. And so I did this piece on, I won't do the whole thing, but I did this piece on stage once that was sort of a tribute to her and her age. She was 16. It was, yo, my name is John, and I've got a teenager, and she's at that age when boys want to date her. And though I realize this will eventually occur, I picked up a few things so I can protect her, like mace and pepper spray and night vision goggles, and 2 guys from Chicago, and whatever. I sort of just went on, and I know that's what she did. She was like, "Oh my gosh, no. I've been driven to this by the thought of her dating. The next step is enhanced interrogating." Boom, 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 So yeah, I don't
Record
do that
that.
much,
Come
but
on. Every
I
father
did
would
it.
love that.
Yeah, but I did it. I know, right? I did it on stage once or twice, and the audience they just had that look on their face, like, "Why are you doing this?" So it's really funny. Anyway, that was my first song, was Hippity Hop to the Barbershop, and I can't remember. I remember there was a cowbell involved though, back before
Cowbell.
the Saturday Night Live. Yeah, nobody ever said more cowbell.
And so what led you to become a journalist?
Wow. I mean, well, it's a really long story. I actually wrote a book called Relentless, which was inspired by my successful battle against cancer, and also just sort of a weird story of my life. And what happened was, when I went to Garden City High School on Long Island, and it's interesting when you get out of high school, you look back at it and go, wow, that was pretty powerful, or that was terrible, whatever. But my high school, and it still is to this day, was really a performing arts. It didn't say performing arts school, but it really was a performing arts high school. And so there were a lot of bands in there. I was in I played trumpet and trombone, so I was in the marching band, the orchestral band, the jazz band, orchestra, whatever, all that stuff. So there was a lot of music, and I was an only child, really. I had 2 sisters who were 11 and 9 years older than me. And so I just had a lot of time to myself. And, my dad was, World War II veteran. So my memory of him was, a Kent cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and a high ball of scotch. It's like, wow, what are you doing? Go in and make some music. I paid for the lessons. It was great. He was great. It was tough love, right? And a lot of craziness. Anyway, so when he was the vice president of Hanes Underwear, which is why we ended up in New York, and because he was at the Empire State Building in his offices, and so he was convinced that if I followed a path of music, like a lot of parents back then, that I would starve to death. So he actually enrolled me early decision at North Carolina State University, and in textile chemistry. And it was like, okay, so here I am, organic chemistry, quantitative analysis, shade matching 101. I lasted about 3.5 semesters. And I took a course to raise my GPA, which was horrible at the time. And the class was Radio and Television 101. And like probably you and a lot of other people, I got bit by that bug. And it changed everything. So I went to my professors and said, can I drop your course, your organic chemistry course, your statistics course, because I want to follow my dream. And they're like, oh, sure, because you're terrible in this anyway. But my statistics professor wouldn't do it. So I'm following the rules. You're past the drop ad date. I'm not going to sign this. And I pleaded with him, and he said no. And so I did what you never would have done. On some advice from a fraternity brother, I signed my professor's name to the drop ad card. And he caught me, reported me to the university. They said they suspended me indefinitely, saying I had violated the honor code. And then when my dad got that letter, he threw me out of the house. And so, which was expected, right? I had dishonored him. Everybody I dishonored. My girlfriend broke up with me. So I was in a tent for about 6 months pumping gas during another gas crisis back in 1973. And I just realized that there was only one way to get out of this, and that was to find a job on the radio. And so I made like fake demo tapes and stuff and shopped them around, and I got a job doing weekend news at WKIX, which was Rick D's station in Raleigh, North Carolina. And this is the wildest thing is there were a series of events. This is how I know there's a Holy Spirit. There was a series of events that led to, in 36 months, I went from Raleigh, North Carolina to Orlando to Nashville to New York City at the age of 23. 36 months after I was in that tent, I was anchoring the news in the same building as Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite. And so that's how I know, right? I mean, but it was just because I had burned my boats, as they say, I had burned my ships, and I had no choice but just to get out there and try and find a job. And I wondered today, because I haven't talked to him since then, but I wonder today what would have happened if my statistics professor would have said, don't worry about it. I don't know what would have happened, because I wouldn't have been kicked out of my house, and I wouldn't have had to become a man, quote unquote.
Wow, that's an amazing story. God has given you, this second chance at life with cancer. We're so blessed and happy that, you have fought that terrible thing. There's words for that, but we won't say that on the air. And, and I've been looking at your Intelligence for Life. That's like where do you get, your research from that? It must be amazing to work with Connie on that show. And let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, there's we as my son Gib, who's 40, said, this is a lot of family time. So Gib and I are on the radio together, and then Connie has her own show, Intelligence for Your Health, and our studios are all, in this house. And so we're together. I mean, Connie and I especially are together 24/7. But it was one of those things where when I finally got off the road because we were touring 30 after Red Rocks, we were touring 30 to 40 dates a year. And there was a 2-year-old at home, and I got the Italian eyebrow from my wife, like, are you going to do this forever, And so I thought, well, why don't I knock that down to, like maybe 10 shows, 12 shows a year. But I would like to do something back in the media world. And it was one of those things where it's like, say, what's missing from the radio right now? There were love songs at night. There was the Howard Stern shock jocks in the morning, and then sort of easy listening in the middle of the day. And I thought, why don't we do something why don't we just curate information and take these 5,000, 10,000 word studies and turn them into, 250 words and then surround them with music. And when I pitched it to the big radio conglomerates, there was like, no, it's too expensive. You can't do a show with 10 researchers. And so Connie and I self-financed it. We used money from the music business, and we started the show on 6 stations. And you know what scaling is, of course. It costs the same amount of money to do 6 stations as it does to do what we have now, which is 300. But we realized that if we just did what we wanted to do, which was, I'm really looking for tidbits to enrich my life. I'm looking to move forward in my life. And our battle cry has always been on the radio show, if it doesn't make a difference in your life, if it doesn't cause you to make a difference in someone else's life, we won't put it on the show. So it's everything from 3 ways to shrink your waistline, 2 ways to save your marriage, how to find the job and your purpose and your mission in life, things like that. We've been doing it for 20 years, and it's forced learning from me. You know what I mean? Because the information comes to me, and then I write the show, and then we do, 33 hours of radio a week. And a lot of the young kids are like, you mean podcast? I said, no, it's radio. It comes through the air, and it goes into your car.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know the one episode you had about know your why. That just needs to be played several times. Because the first time I heard it, I'm like, what? And then I listened to it, I'm like, wait, let's do that again. It's powerful.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, there was a study that said that, if you're watching TV, you won't even see any car commercials unless you're in the market for a car. And so that's what really happens with our show, is that if your relationship is fine, and we have like the 3 ways to save your relationship, you're not even going to hear that. If you're trying to, a lot of people right now, because of the lockdowns, they're trying to find their new wire. I call it an Etch-a-Sketch moment, where it's, you drew this great thing for your life, and then some 3-year-old came along and shook it, and it's gone now. And that's why there's the Great Resignation going on, I think. And that's why when we do something on the radio show that is, here's a side hustle for you, here are a couple ways to make some extra money, our email just blows up. So people are reimagining their lives right now. So when you put out a video that says, if you find your why, well, I think it was Nietzsche who said, if you have your why, you can endure anyhow, right? As long as you have that purpose, every day.
That was a good one. I also love the one where you talked about putting your credit cards in a plastic bag in water and then putting it in your freezer. That blew me away. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to tell me and my kids that's what we're doing, because my goal this year is to get out of debt, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I'm positive it's going to happen. I said, I am doing that.
Well, you just did something else too. That's the key to success and the key to healing too, which is to make sure you understand what's coming out of your mouth. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." And so many of us, and I did first when I got 18 months to live back in 2015. I became a cancer patient. But if you speak your life forward, what is it? Romans 4:17. Which is God calls forth those things that be not as though they were, and you can do that in your own life, it's just speak positive. I know it sounds so goofy, right? But just don't let Debbie and Don Downers be around you, and also just make sure you're not speaking death over yourself, and I mean that metaphorically.
Exactly. Everyone's like, you're always so happy and positive. I says, well, why not? I mean, why am I gonna? I said, COVID came, and it
Right.
it didn't change my life. Actually, I mean, I went out and I started hiking and doing things I didn't normally do. And I says, I didn't get to I worked from home, and so I was making money. I got spoiled and didn't want to come back to the real job, because that's been tough. And but you do what you have to do. And if you're not positive, then the people around you, you don't want negativity. So you want to be
Right.
positive,
Right. And
and be
that's really
thankful.
yeah, and that's really the message that we want to convey in this concert. Is when we'll keep playing until we see the audience with that look on their face. I mean, there's our concerts are women who have dragged their husband or a boyfriend to a John Tesh concert, right? Because he has an idea what it's going to be, and so that's why we save the basketball theme for like the last third of the show, because there's always one guy like or maybe five of them in the second or third row, sort of like this, and then when you can see the guy lean over to his wife or girlfriend, and go, "This guy wrote that? Oh my gosh!" And so then we're in. But that's the whole idea of the show is hope and a future, and understanding that really that Romans 10, John 10:10, which is the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly. Jesus speaking, and so that's really the way we understand that God wants us well, and we understand that God doesn't put sickness and lack on us. It's the other guy. And so when you understand there's a battle you have to fight, but then there's a way through. That's the message that we like to send. And it's not a church service. It's just testimonial, basically.
Along with music, and it's inspirational. And I can't wait to go to see it. It's to see you. It's going to be amazing. John, let's quickly talk about your launch, that Tesh TV. It's 24/7 live streaming platform. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean that really is. I mean, obviously we have a YouTube channel with music and the daily life hacks on there, the Intelligence for Your Life stuff. Tesh TV is basically and it's called just the God's Word 24/7. So it can be me, sitting here playing and reading scripture. It can be speeches and teachings from people, mostly about healing, because that's understanding that the way I got through cancer was with my advocate, my wife Connie, and doctors, and then also the understanding what the Bible says about healing. And so, I mean, TV, you might hear whoever says to this mountain, "Be removed and be cast into the sea," and believes in his heart that it will be done, shall have whatever he says. Therefore, whatever you ask when you pray, believe that you receive it, and you will have it. So it's one of those things where you can just dip in at any time during the day and be encouraged, And I've wanted to do this for the longest time. The technology didn't exist, and so now it does.
So during the pandemic, what did you and your wife do during that time?
Well, we normally work from home anyway, yeah. But we closed our offices in Sherman Oaks, and people work from home, and it was a shock there for a while. But during that time, we lost about 50% of our revenue, but because we got lean and because the people who work here, our executive producers, Betsy Chase and Scotty Myers and all the writers and the other producers. They're so good, but then everybody had to put on another hat. Maybe one of them was working social media, the other one, so everybody just sort of doubled up on everything. And the difference for me when the lockdown happened was that it was just better food, because my wife is an amazing Italian cook, and then we got used to spending more time together, all of us, me, Gib and Prima, and our grandkids, and I'm a very driven person, as you might be able to tell. And so I had to do what you started doing, was just be mindful, and understand that, like right now, if my 8-year-old grandkid ran in here, I would stop this interview and say, hang on one second, and I would get down on one knee and and listen to everything they have to say, because where I grew up, and most people my age, your parents, they didn't do that. It was like you're off on your own. But that's what the pandemic taught me, was that I'm going to have these just like what you said. You can make the most out of it. You can find that silver lining. And then I kept reading, because I was going through chemo when because the cancer had come back when the pandemic happened. And so it was like suffering and then just being locked up. And I just kept rereading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he's a Holocaust survivor. And just reading about his life and what he went through, and all of his friends and his family, it sort of resets the bar in your life, basically.
Sounds like a great book to read for all of us. And yours too. Gonna have to get that one.
I'll give it to you when you show up at the show. It'll be great.
Okay, I will be there, and I will love to get that, because I do love to read.
Awesome.
So the show is going to be July 22nd, 23rd at Feinstein's in Studio City. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it's a Studio City supper club. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's like going back in time. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be great. That'll be great. Well, John, do you have anything to share with us that we haven't covered?
No, I think you got it all, because I'm pretty long-winded, and when my wife comes to concerts, she has a little 8x5 card that says "Land the Plane," so try to keep the stories, keep the music high and the stories low. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to make those cue cards for my kids, for me.
Exactly.
I like that.
Well, it's an honor to talk to you. I followed your interviews, and I loved your interview with the Michael Jackson kid. He was great.
Oh, Rodrigo, wasn't that something? And he's calling from Brazil,
from Brazil. I know, like, wow. And at first, I clicked on it and I looked away and I heard his voice. And I was like, whoa! I thought it was Michael Jackson.
It looks like him, and I can't wait to go to his concert. Are you going to come to it at the Wiltern?
I would love to. The Wiltern is one of my favorite places. When I came from New York, one of the first groups I saw there was Sting, and it's a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go to this thing, and the downtown this, and the Staples that, and all, and the Kodak this, but the Wiltern is like, because it's such a tight theater, not small, but just the sound is tight. You can really, you can just hear everything. So it's a great place.
I think my first memory of going there is I actually attended NASCAR meets Hollywood, and it was like the 50th anniversary of NASCAR, and it was I won these tickets to be on the red carpet, and I met like James Garner. I thought I was going to die when I met him, and then all the NASCAR, and I was into NASCAR, so that was like heaven. And after that, I said, whatever comes to this theater, I'm going to it, because it's just amazing.
Right. And I love the Rockford Files. He was amazing in that.
Yeah.
It's funny for me, because I spent so many years, on Entertainment Tonight, 10 years on Entertainment Tonight, reporting on stars and musicians and everything. But I'm still such a fan. My wife was on Hotel and also on Greatest American Hero, which was one of my favorite shows, back in the 80s or 90s, I guess it was.
90s.
And so, every now and then, Robert Culp would come over to the house, and Billy Catt, who was the Greatest American Hero, would be like, oh my gosh, I'm having dinner with these people, because I was a huge I Spy fan.
My light went off. Sorry.
That's
cool.
To
stand up to give me light. Somehow or another, my light went off.
Well, I guess our time is up then, isn't it? Yeah.
Technology. Hello, come on, light. I have no idea why it went off. I'm in an office.
Back. It's good. You're like a cutout now. I love it.
Yes. So there you go. I guess it's time to tell us that. There, I'll back up a little bit. That was very funny.
I turned one of mine off, so there you go.
Oh, all right. Now we're doing good. Well,
wait, hold on. We got one more.
I'm actually going to move my laptop and go over here and turn the light back on. There we go. See, it came back on. Technology, right, John? Oh, wow.
All right. So now I feel better.
You're such a sport.
People are like, at this point, people are like, why am I watching this interview right now? You may have started something here. This is pretty cool. It's sort of like, the Masked Singer. It's like the Silhouette Interview. Welcome back to Silhouette Interview. And you got your own theme song. Welcome back to the Silhouette Interview. Our guest today is, well, we don't know, but we'll try and find out with a list of questions.
All right. That's going to be an episode on your show. I know it.
Yep.
You have to thank me for that.
Well, you save a lot of energy this way. This is amazing.
No interviews between 4 and 9, because Edison charges triple the amount for electricity.
That's right. Again, those of you who are watching this at this point are going to go, I'm not going to that concert. This guy's weird.
Yes, everyone go to his concert.
Yeah,
We want him
there'll be
standing outside.
yeah, there'll be some of this. Hey, thanks. It was great talking to you.
It was great talking to you.